So, folks, welcome to another episode of Better You. Today, I have this amazing person which I found on LinkedIn, and she was kind enough to give me some time from her busy schedule. Her name is Ashley. She's the founder of the Better Nutrition Program. I'm actually going to let Ashley introduce herself, but the way I'm thinking to do this episode, learn more from Ashley. You know how her tagline on the website says, "Stop speed dating diets." I have done it multiple times. I'm on a journey to lose weight, stay fit, stay healthy, sleep more. So, Ashley, over to you. Just introduce yourself, and then we can start the
Yeah.
discussion.
Oh, I love this. Thank you so much. I'm on that same journey too. Probably the only difference between us, or maybe one of, is that somewhere in my early 20s, I found myself on a 7-day goat's milk only cleanse that had been prescribed to me by a friend from yoga class who I went over to her house and let her prick my finger and look at my blood, probably in a Fisher Price microscope. And she told me that I had a worm in my gut and I had to kill the worm by doing all of this. And I might sound like an absolutely crazy person. And at that point in time, I was, but it was because it had preceding that had been about 18 years of maybe being somebody who, like, as a young kid, was cute with a belly. Then I was like a fat girl, and and trying to deal and diet, and tried all of the diets under the sun. And then I finally was told I was unhealthy for the first time when when I still was getting ear and throat infections, and they took my tonsils out. And it wasn't until after the goat's milk cleanse that which, by the spoiler alert, didn't work, that I found out that my digestive system had been just didn't have what it needed to run better. I had been on tons of antibiotics as a kid, and my genetics and other experiences, other medications, living in 1980 and 1990 at that time period, all of these things were setting me up for failure, really, on a weight health journey. And so going through that and figuring it out myself, which originally I thought was just a digestive journey, and I've learned more is really overall weight health, was huge for me. And it took me from a career where I was advertising sugared cereals and hair color to becoming one of the country's leading dietitians, and going all the way to, DC and the government, and trying to create change there, and realizing that wasn't going to happen. And finally starting my own company to bring forward and really try to scale the wins that I would see with my patients in my private practice. So that's my introduction. And I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, this is, and that was actually my next question, because I looked at your profile, and after analyzing your work, it's very clear that you have a very diverse background, right? From advertising to suddenly jumping to nutrition. Personally, I was very excited to understand, how did you do it? And I also love your title, which is Chief Nutrition
Mhm,
Officer,
mhm.
right? It's really cool. And so, the way I want to have this conversation, my audience, they are mainly technical founders, CEOs, and engineers. I think two things which I learned from my own personal experience: sleep is very
Mhm.
important. In tech world, it's very a trendy term. Hey, oh, I slept only 4 hours. Look, I'm coding all day night. I'm hustling. I'm building this stuff. I think I really want you to educate me, educate my audience. When it comes to sleep, why it's so important, and how to sleep better, and then we can tap into the next piece, which is more on the diet
Sure.
side and
I love
nutrition
that you're
side.
looking at those two, because they really are, they're they're a yin and yang. Like, so our body needs things to be energized and do its work. And then it also needs to have the recovery time where it's not doing work. So it can do like the deep clean, or it can, have these other things occur. So I'm all of the things that you mentioned. I'm a founder. I've have successful startups. I have not successful startups. I'm a tech person. I was very early on in digital health. If you guys remember Jawbone, I did the nutrition for Jawbone. Like, definitely I'm in your zone on that part. And you may or may not know this, or you may encounter me in a different way. I also consult with investors and investor groups who and I've taught them to actually require an evaluation of the founder team or the founding team's health and their plan for maintaining their health through the next phase of growth when they get their investment. Because we have seen so many companies where the founders their health has imploded, where one or the other, if it's a team or, et cetera, or where they're putting such bad practices into place that the key asset, the creativity and the brain power of who they're building around and who they're asking for money to bring in is actually falling apart, right? Our technology can go all the time, right? AI can go all the time, but emotions, creativity, recovery, that's, very human need, on that part. So sleep is a non-negotiable. One of the things that I think has happened is, and this happens all the time in the nutrition world, is that something is like not talked about. So for example, when I was starting my career, digestion was not talked about. I had practitioners, doctors who would say to me, oh my gosh, somebody's nutrition or their their digestive health, that is not a factor here at all. And it's like now everybody's talking about digestion. And so there are like 1,000, 1,000,000, 1,000,000,000 different ideas of products you can take, things you can do, et cetera. So on the sleep side, I think what we have right now is we're being told, it's kind of like steps, like you should walk 10,000 steps a day. Well, you should get in X amount of sleep. But the real question is how, or the other part of it is, why am I not getting in the quality of sleep? Like, why can't I construct my life in a way where sleep can actually be valued in the way that it should be valued? And I had a great conversation, be a little argumentative. I always joke, I'm not passive aggressive, I'm just straight up aggressive. And so I was talking to someone and they were giving all of these, like, it was a sleep conversation. And he's talking really great stuff, like your room needs to be cold. It needs to be dark in there. You need to go to bed at this time. You need to do this. This helps with your sleep. And it was everything. And I was like, so basically, like, you're telling me that I have to start getting ready to go to bed at 7 and I can't have any relationships, or really should kind of live in an igloo. Like there was just no like, how am I going to do this in modern day? Like there are kids in the house that come up and wake you up, or your dog is here, or, we might need to work later at night, or that might be the only time we can exercise, or what about sex, or just all of these different things. And so what I would say is that we can't devalue in any way the importance of sleep. We can't make up for it. Sleep is, when our body is in the recovery phase, our vagus nerve, that highway that's going from our gut to our brain and sort of like a one-lane road going from our brain down to our gut, there's a lot of stuff that's going on there that needs to happen for us to live the quality of life that, that we want to live. And so these things need to be turned off. We need to be in the rest and digest state. So what we need to do is we need to figure out for each of us why that isn't working. So that means evaluating. And so if you're a founder and you're saying like, okay, I have certain goals, and as a result, like I've got to get more work done during the day. Maybe what you're missing is that you need it's like the who, not the how, right? That we all know, like you need someone else to come in. Like there's something, like you can't actually do all of that, because if you keep pushing, you're not going to be well enough to do X on this part. So one of the things that I do with founders is we pull apart your sleep and we look at what isn't happening for you. Are you waking up in the middle of the night and peeing? Depending on age, depending on if you've had children, depending on where your prostate is, like there are a lot of factors, but maybe you're not hydrated. Maybe we need to look at your hydration during the day. And that doesn't mean maybe you haven't drank water, maybe you haven't absorbed water. So you may be a hose and not a sponge. So we do this fun little exercise and we find out, are you a hose or are you a sponge? And then we work on helping you become a sponge, and we work on what are all the things that you're doing that could be helping your hydration or deducting from it as you go into the time when you're going to be sleeping. Can we make your room a little bit colder? Can we make your room a little bit darker? And if we can't, how can we help you and your body experience some of that? There's I remember I was listening to Smartless, the podcast, and I was laughing because a couple of the celebrities were talking about how they've evolved. Like it was like, oh, you have to have a comfy bed. They're like, oh no, the big win was like my partner and I each have our own duvets. Like why are we sharing? Like how many fights have happened where you haven't had a good night's sleep because you don't have the sheets that you want, or you have all the sheets, or whatever. Why can't we just, we don't have to create separate beds, but we could, create or maybe we do need separate beds. Maybe somebody really can't address their snoring right now and we need to work on that. And maybe we need to look at, how do I find moments of joy in my day so that by the time I come home at night, I'm not so desperately seeking some joy that I'm finding ways of creating joy that actually are deducting, from my sleep. So we could go on and on. The idea is to, like anything, to personalize recommendations, then to experiment with them, see what works, see what is not doable, because my recommendations they're not the answer. They're the starting point, right? And then we double down on what's doable, or we pivot, where's needed. So rather than saying, hey guys, sleep is important, that's kind of saying like, hey, excess stress, not better for you. These things are a fact, like they're going to happen. And so what can you do? How can you create a plan that is going to personalize better sleep for you? That's where we should be having the conversation, because it's literally a non-negotiable for a founder or for a human, quite frankly, on that part. Yeah.
No, very nice. I think you mentioned some very key components, especially when founders, they go through this
Mm-hmm.
fundraising event, they lose so much sleep, anxiety, panic attacks, stress, and now so many things. You mentioned something very important about the
Mm-hmm.
hydration. Uh, Without going into too much details, could you explain a little bit more to the audience? What are the top 3 or top 5 tips that you can give to stay
Yeah.
hydrated? I know people are by default thinking, or drink
Yeah.
more water.
So it's totally
But
wrong, because
I
when
think more
hydration
to it.
isn't the process of drinking water. Yes, we need to bring water into our body, but we need to make sure that we don't just eliminate it. Because hydration is actually the experience of your cells having the water, and as a result, the nutrients that they escort in, that for them having those, right? So it's super interesting, because we give a lot of credit for water consumption and we create recommendations around water consumption. A lot of times I'm having people actually drink less water than they were before. Maybe I'm having them space it out, because if they're drinking too much water at one time, how much can your body absorb? It's the same thing with food. Like, our bodies are designed more like a race car than a street car. We don't want to overload the system and be like, okay, I'm not going to have to think about it for 5 days, or whatever on that part. And in fact, we'll see if this analogy lands, but I was laughing about it because I'm writing this book on optimizing our switch, our natural GLP-1 hormones, and just looking at how this is important in weight health overall. And I was saying to somebody, they went and they found the Gila monster, and the Gila monster is like a prehistoric, like it literally is a fossil. It's a living fossil today. And that fossil does not have to eat for days or weeks or months on that part. I'm going to explain why it's related to hydration in a second. So what they did is they went and they isolated the venom, and they were like, okay, if we can, like that, the way their hormone works is it turns off the messaging. So what if we could have that come into our systems and it turns off the messaging? So as I was writing the book, I was saying, like, you know what? I bet somebody right now is in a lab somewhere evaluating a camel and trying to find if there's a way that we can get like the hormone that a camel has, that is like, what if we just didn't have to drink water for like such a long time, right? Feel like it literally, like camel juice, we're going to be, that already exists, but like the camel hormone is like, we want it, right? Because many of us actually don't want to eat. We're just like, maybe some stuff for enjoyment, but we're like, oh, if I just didn't have to and my body could have what it needs, like that's what I'm looking for. And I think from a hydration standpoint, what we've turned it into is this whole like gamification of, we need more water, we need more water, we need more protein, like for muscles, et cetera. And what we don't need is more water. We need to be absorbing better. Now, there's 2 ways that we can absorb better. One is we can have the electrolytes in the right balance that make sure that we have some of it staying outside of the cells, but staying there and not coming out of us. And others of the water needs to come inside the cells and help metabolic function there. So that's going to be really important. And then we have to look at all of the dehydrators that exist in our world. So as much as people would love to say it, coffee, even though it's made with water, it's a dehydrator. Teas, caffeine, it's going to be a dehydrator on that part. To a certain extent, so is cacao, right? Because there's a little bit of caffeine that's in there. Alcohol, it's a dehydrator. Sugar, hydrophobic, it is also a dehydrator. So we have to look at, sweating, of course, and, some of the aspects of digestion. We have to look at how often or what we're doing that is dehydrating us, not considering it a negative, just looking at it like this is just an experiment. So here are my dehydrators and here are my hydrators, and they need to come in and they need to be at a better balance, right? And so we need to know. And the fun quiz is, and any of you can do this, it's also free on our website, but you literally just drink 8 ounces of water and you'll see there's a little bit of nuance to it, but you're going to see do I have to pee with sooner than 2 hours? And that's going to give me good information, because if you have to pee sooner than 2 hours after just 8 ounces of water and not taking in anything else, you probably aren't absorbing well. And also, if you don't have to pee for like 4 hours, you probably also are extremely dehydrated, and we have to work on, on that part too. So these are just fun little, fun ways to figure out what our body's trying to tell us, without going, too deep into labs and things like that. Yeah.
Actually, this is actually really, really useful information, and I want to come back as part of the final segment of our episode, where how to reach out to you and sign up for this program. But I want to actually, before we go into the sign up process, I want to understand more about the evolution of this better nutrition program that you have. Could you walk us through? Because I personally want to learn it, and I can tell you, listening to this, whatever you're saying, as I am getting older and older, I can see lots of symptoms in my body aging out. I would love to subscribe to your program, but help us to understand the evolution of better nutrition.
So I started off, as soon as I got off my goat's milk cleanse and figured out how to help my body, I was like, okay, I'm going to go do this for America. So I went to, I got my license. And even through my education, I was like, we got a really big problem, because nothing that I learned in school was what actually helped me. And so I knew that the medical system was set up against us. And when I was in the hospital, I saw that firsthand. The hospital that I trained at, where I did my residency, was in County Hospital in Los Angeles. It's where they filmed ER. There was not a lot of great nutrition, and there weren't opportunities, so I was like, okay, so we have to approach nutrition in a different way. Our medical system today needs a chief nutrition officer. So it is great to have a chief medical officer. I love doctors. I'm the daughter of a doctor. I have siblings that are doctors. I totally get that part, but doctors don't do nutrition, because nutrition is in the gray area and it's in the how. So they like to diagnose and tell you and say, this is what you should be doing. But it's the question of how are you doing? And that requires us continually coming back to it. So my own experience, I was like the N of one, was personalized nutrition that, optimizes my gut health, and then comes in and says, okay, what does my body need to run better? And asks that question, and then is able to evaluate the evidence that my body is actually giving me, whether it's labs, or whether it's how fast I can run, or whether it's how quickly I recover, or whether I feel rested when I wake up from my sleep, or whether I bite into an apple and it tastes sweet. Any of these things, we have data that we can get. And the only information that we need to know about nutrition is actually how our body is responding to our choices. That's really important, because one of the things that so many people are suffering from today is infobesity. They're just going out and trying to learn and learn and learn and learn about nutrition. And that makes you feel like there's a right answer. There is literally no right answer, not even the one that I just gave you. The only right answer is, hey, when I try this, I get the outcome that I'm desiring in my body. And oh, by the way, I'm able to keep trying this, and I continue to get those outcomes. So when we look at it that way, I came around and I was like, okay, I'm going to be, and it was this incredible, I had a super robust private practice. I worked around the country, around the world, a lot of that. I did reality TV shows. I worked in government. And I was trying to figure out, how do we bring this personalized, why are the dietary guidelines the way that they are? Why is nutrition not taught here? Why is nutrition taught this way there? There's so many things that we have to, what's on a school lunch menu, all of these issues. And what I came back to was, we need to make it easier to be able to do this personalization. And then we have to teach how to do that personalization. So remember, I'm a startup, I'm an entrepreneur, et cetera. So I sort of left the world of my own practice and writing books and spokesperson work and TV, and helping product, with product development and all this stuff. And I started this company to basically create tools that make it easier for us to do personalized nutrition. So all these games and experiments, I call them experiments, that I've created, instead of saying hey, take a magnesium supplement, why not do a quiz that evaluates whether or not what you need from a magnesium standpoint? It looks at foods, it looks at supplements, it looks at, your bowel habits, your body habits, your exercise. You have to ask a lot of questions, and then you come in and say, okay, here's the recommendation. So I created those. And I started selling it to practitioners. And the hard part about practitioners is they want to do all of this, but they are just not set up to do all of this. And I was not set up to work with each practitioner at scale to help them be able to do all of this. So instead, I left and I started working for University of California at Irvine as the nutrition director and teaching this and using our tools there. And we created the Better Nutrition program. We pivoted to direct to consumer. And we said, let's either meet someone where they are online or through this way, and you can come this way. Or we also partner with employers and with companies that provide that where they're trying to sell a weight health solution. They want to help us either improve, our body composition or our cholesterol, or they're looking at your whole health on that part. We come in and we provide the personalized nutrition there. So some of you may have access to us through partnerships that are built into, other entities. Places like if you're going to go get your labs drawn and they tell you what the lab results are, you now need to know, okay, so what does that mean for what I'm actually supposed to go do, right? And so a lot of these partially personalized solutions are stopping. They're making very bold claims about what they're able to offer, but they can't take you to the finish line. We're the how, we're the implementation, the intel inside that takes you to the finish line.
You just made a very good point, because when I get my lab results, I look at them and I call my doctor Kaiser, and then he or she will explain me some stuff. But for me, what do I do next? What do I need? As you said, part, right? How can I improve those negative results, or the results show up? So, it comes to the point. So let's say I'm in a situation where I have to present, I have to go to a VC meeting, investor meeting, whatever it is, or important client. I am me alone. What are the things that I can do, to just detach and then just stay calm, and then figure out a way to eat something, drink something to calm myself down? Because I have seen many doctors getting anxiety attacks before the presentation.
Yeah. And one of the things I'm known for, you can go back, but I was the, InStyle magazine and People magazines, like Hollywood Dietitian, here's how Ashley gets her clients red carpet ready. And what I would always say is, I don't get them red carpet ready. I keep them red carpet ready. So as a founder, one of the best things that you can do, and that's also why we make our services really affordable, is you can come in and you can work on your health, and you work with somebody that understands that you are a founder trying to stay healthy. You're not going to be a founder forever, or you are going to be the founder forever, but you're not going to be in this current state. I say this to myself all the time in the mirror. You're not going to be in this current state. I'm a founder, a perimenopausal 50-year-old woman being like, what was I thinking? I should have done this at 30, that kind of thing. So you turn around, you're not going to be this way, but you need someone who can meet you where you are and make sure that what you're doing right now is not increasing your risk of more of disease or poor health later, but also is addressing anything that could be keep you from being your best right now. So I think that's really important. If you want to super wow an investor, you come in and you let them know that part of what you are doing is investing in your own health, and you're clear about that. So I'm able to deliver on this because I have these boundaries, and because here's what I have from a nutrition plan standpoint, et cetera, on that part. So I think that piece is really important. The reason I talk about staying red carpet ready on that piece is, so the conversation would often be how do you help celebrities get red carpet ready, actually? And I would say, we don't get red carpet ready. We stay red carpet ready. So one of the things is, don't wait until you have the investor meeting. Don't look, and trust me, I've been here. Don't look down, work on the plane and also not sleep at home and all of that stuff, and try to prepare everything. And then be after this presentation, I'm totally going to, focus in on my health. You want to be doing the work, and then give yourself, and this usually requires working with someone who can create a plan for you in collaboration with you that's doable. And I think that's one of the key things is you have to turn around and say to somebody, I'm literally not going to be able to get more than 5 hours of sleep. Okay. So if that's the case, then what do we do in this time period? Or, what are some of those? So number one would be, let's make sure that you aren't trying to do it the moment before. Number two, like anything else, this founder part, this is a sprint or a marathon, however you want to look at it, train. So don't try to do something the night before an event that you've never done before. That's a big mistake on that part. So for example, don't try going into a presentation with no caffeine. If you're somebody who always presents with caffeine, don't try having more caffeine. Don't try stopping caffeine the day before. You might not poop for 24 hours and then you're going into this investor meeting. If you're flying somewhere, make sure that the time that you've flown before that you have, tested out some of these things. And I think that's going to be really key. And one of the things that I would do is I would definitely, from a nutrition standpoint, recognize that your body, most of us have done some type of training. Maybe you've even done something like at high intensity at some point in your life. Your body, when you are presenting like that, that's what this is. So that's like where you can, okay, like I remember I was in a school play and it was really difficult and I got on stage and, whatever, but try to envision yourself being successful and how your body felt, recognizing that you actually do want to be stressed. Like you really, like this is a high stress moment for you. So anything that would be like, I'm going to do all these things to turn off the stress is actually going to ask your body to have to work harder because it's going to really try aggressively to work against what you're doing better. So you want to be hydrated. So we just talked a little bit about that. You do want to have something in your system. You want to have something in your system that like supports your body. Should have, we want protein in there, we want fats in there, we want carbohydrates in there, but something that is good and your body, your body how your body digests it, on that part. Plan your caffeine out according to pace, and that kind of thing. Sometimes one of the things that has happened to my clients that's been like harder for them is sometimes the meeting, somebody will be like, oh, I had this investor meeting, but we went out for drinks. Okay, just because you go out for drinks, it doesn't mean that you need to have the drink in that moment, or order the drink, but have it sit in front of you and then have the conversation and sip on it, or order maybe a water. Don't order a sparkling water unless sparkling water doesn't make you gassy or bloated. Don't order that part, let's figure that piece out. So stay with your same plan, train for it, just like we would do for any type of a sports event, et cetera, on that part. And be very wary of using things that are like would be considered around your performance in the moment. And then there are a couple of things, a couple of the key ones. Remember that I'm just a big believer in, if not this, then something better. So it's just like with a new date, or it's just, like you're interviewing for school or for job, if this, like you can have your whole heart totally set on this, and all of those pieces. But if you're having to change who you are, or if you even are feeling a little bit stressed because you feel like maybe I should lie and tell them that I'm doing better than I'm doing, take a pause. Do you want somebody to buy you or to partner with you that isn't going to get to know you, right? Like that isn't, or that you feel like you have to pretend that you are something other than you are. I would definitely think about that. And sorry, dog barking in the background. I would think about that, and I would come back to, in that moment, looking at what are some of the things that help me stay as present as possible. So for some people, it's a little something like a screensaver on their phone. The one on my phone says, I'm doing great things, so I can't come down right now. It's like, I think it's even a biblical reference. I haven't read the Bible. Like that's not me, but like, it really helps me to stay focused. Like I can't be distracted from these other things. Maybe it's a favorite outfit. I have a sweater that I wear to every meeting. My friends got it for me, and it has engraved in, I think like it's bright blue, Duke blue, and it's got in pink writing, it says better, not perfect. It reminds me that like, that's like, I'm B&P like this. I'm looking for a partner that's better, not perfect. Like this is what I'm trying to do on that part. And then also breathe. Right. So like in that space, find those ways. Like right now I'm breathing from like, a quarter of my shoulder on up. Like, have I tapped into my belly for a moment? And usually when we do that, that's when the smile comes out, a little bit of the laughter, that kind of thing. So there are so many things. I also wouldn't just take it from me and hear like right now, this might be impetus here to say, ooh, I need a coach like that. Like I'm spending so much time on the content of my presentation, on the demo that we're going to show them. Have I spent that time on preparing me for this? And I think that's going to be really important for you. And then just chance, favors the prepared. Yeah.
Ashley, before we go into the final segment of this episode, like how to reach out to you, how to sign up for your program, I want to actually ask you a personal question. So I was in the investor meeting with a founder, and then I noticed that two people coming out of the room, two founders, one person super sweaty, other person not sweaty at all.
Yeah.
And then, me being weird, I just asked them, I said, man, like, why are you sweating so much? And the other person is, what is that reaction of the body? Same room temperature, same condition. Some people sweat, some they don't sweat. What is that reaction if you know why?
Yeah. So a couple of things. First of all, asking people why they're sweaty, like you were asking, like in the most honest, like I love that. And I'm sure they got that part from you. It can kind of be like asking someone their age or like looking at their belly and being like, are you pregnant? So I will just say this, like, especially for women, but also for men, because you go through this with hormonal changes. When we go through hormonal changes, we might be trying everything under the sun to like not be sweaty, like literally might have had a hot flash, or there might be, something in that moment, right? So I love that you brought this up, because our bodies are all different. So we all sweat for different reasons. Like for me, when it gets cold, I actually might sweat a little bit more. So that might be different, than somebody else on that part. They may have overeaten. They may have eaten something. They may have literally been sitting through that presentation so worried that they have got to get to a bathroom, but not wanting to be rude to you and knowing this was a really important moment for you, that they are trying to just get through it. And they're like, oh my God, I don't even want to talk to you right now. I need to get into the bathroom. So there are a variety of things. They could be adjusting a medication, and they're going to have to say to their doctor, it was so embarrassing. Like this medication wasn't adjusted right. Like I'm not at the right dose because I'm sweating, like that kind of thing. So there are a variety of reasons. Remember, the body is sweating too because it's always trying to calibrate and stay at a better temperature. And it may also be that's part of the excretory system. So it's trying to, get to eliminate. So it might be part of like impaired elimination, or, trying to do that. Metabolic activity. They might be on a GLP-1 all of a sudden, whatever it is, like there's all sorts of stuff. What I would say about that it reminds me that I think is such an important thing for us to keep in mind is that I always talk to my patients who are working on body composition changes, especially when they're trying to lose fat. And I worked for a long time with bariatric patients. And the conversation would be, remember, when somebody is talking to you about your weight loss, what they observe in you, what they're seeing, their reference point is always themselves. We are so self-focused as humans. So what's interesting is when somebody is sitting in the room and hearing something, or you're talking about something, or any of these different things, remember that everybody is going through their own experience, and they're taking in like different pieces and thinking about things. Like somebody who's listening to this right now may really have sparked to one of the pieces of the conversation, and they're really thinking about, oh, that's why this didn't work for me. I'm probably a hose. I'm not a sponge. Like this makes sense to me. So we also have to remember too that, we're so personal, and so should our healthcare on that piece, that whenever we are in a room with an investor, that we are there, what their experience is just theirs. Like we have no idea, in that way. And until they tell us, and unless they are really honest in telling us, we're actually not going to know, what their experience was. So that can actually play your hand. You can actually really want to get to know someone and ask them and say, did you experience, like for me, when I first, I was giving the presentation, or say there's two of you in the room as founders doing this, whenever Tom talks about this, I have this experience, or I just get like I light up, because what he's talking about is like, we're going to actually finally have the data where we could change the world, whatever. Do you light up? Or does that stress you out? Or do you think like that's going to cost a lot? Or, and you're able to interact with them and kind of ask them how they experience that. We do that a lot in Better Healthcare, in my opinion, or said differently, when it's not done in healthcare, it's a problem. But it's an interesting one to play out in this sort of this conversation around founders and how we experience meetings. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love this. You know what? Now let me ask you a very important question. I want to join the program. What do I need to do?
Yeah. So we have, it's your program, right? So we build a program around you based on where you are. If you are somebody who's coming in and is like, I have a plan, like I have my nutrition plan, I have my like I know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm struggling to implement it. And I'd like some help with some of the things Ashley was talking about from a coaching standpoint. We can bring you into coaches. We don't typically offer that. So I'm just telling your audience something that, like, if you really feel that, have a conversation with my team and see if they'll give you permission to just go right to the coaching. 99.2% of people start off where they come in and they work with myself or a team member, and we call that sort of the clinical month. That's our platinum or our plan phase. And we build your plan over the course of a month. And that's going to be a live session where prior to that, you've shared some data with us. We may have asked you to do a couple of things or, whatever. And then you come in, and then over the course of the month, we build that plan iteratively with back and forth unlimited messaging. You also have access to all of our resources. And then from there, we're going to figure out what your better next step is. It may be that we've implemented some of the plan. I want feedback on it, and I want us to meet next month, and I want us to go over and further iterate. It might mean that we know that you're 2 months away from your presentation. So next month, we're going to work on something else. And then after your presentation, we might move to quarterly on that part. Or I have some people that we work pretty intensely together for 5 or 6 months, and then they move to a quarterly, and we do the assessments. And, because your system, like, things are always changing. The stuff isn't going to work, that worked in last season or, last year. It's kind of like fashion that way. So we would do it that way. And sometimes it means we also are suggesting labs that you get done, or sometimes we're, saying, hey, these supplements would be better for you, or the ones you're taking actually aren't better. We go in. Sometimes it's wear a continuous glucose monitor. Sometimes it's get an Oura ring. Sometimes it's more zone 2 training. Sometimes it's you don't know what zone you're in training. Like, these different things. One of my favorites is when we implement our joy assessment. How do we have more joy in our life? Because joy actually contributes to being healthier, not just to enjoying life better. So we meet you where you are, but 99.2% of the time we start off with a plan on that part. And you can just go to the website, you sign up. Our old messaging, it's called Platinum. Our newer messaging, it's called the personalized plan. So, it's up to you on that part. And we do that for $249, or if you catch us with a coupon, it might be a little bit less than that. So I try to make it be less than what someone's insurance premium is for the month, which for most of us is like falling into that zone. And with the option to at any month, not, it's not one of those that you're locked into for a year or for, several months or that kind of thing. Yeah. Thanks for asking. Yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I'm looking at your website right now, but it's called thebetternutritionprogram.com.
Yes.
And as I said, right, the tagline is so cool. It says, stop speed dating diets. And we go through this peak times, low times, up times, and sometimes you lose, you gain, you drink a lot of wine, whatever the reason is, right?
Yeah.
I am looking at this, how simple this platform is. I can just go in, I can start the membership, and I can just start educating myself. It's brilliant.
The only giggle in me is we were told by someone on our marketing side to not keep that tagline anymore. We're moving into how to feel better, feel more confident, feel this. And so now I'm like sad because I love the stop speed dating dieting. So we'll see where we net out on that part. But I love that you
look, the new year is coming, and a lot of people start this stuff, especially after December holidays.
Yes. Yeah.
And a lot of people also break up or start new relationships in the time. Speed dating is good. Yeah.
Yes. We'll keep it for now for you. Thank you. Yeah.
Ashley, thank you so much for showing up here. And hopefully I can meet you someday in person. And if we don't talk before holidays, happy holidays. Enjoy the holidays. And hopefully we'll talk again next year.
Thank you. And I just have to say, I am so proud of you for stepping into a space of maybe discomfort and fear and saying like, hey, what do I want to put out there into the world? Because, the ability, I know from my work, the ability to help one person, get and feel better, and just what you're doing. And then also the double side of getting to, I love to learn from so many people. So, I get to learn from you, you get to learn, so this is just great. You're creating a wonderful resource for people. So thank you on that part.
I love it. Ashley, thank you.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Bye.